Hey, Trails Collective world, Ian here, coming at you from the Finger Lakes Running Company here in Ithaca, New York. It is good to be live with you. For those who are tuning in live, you can catch it on, streaming to my personal Facebook page, as well as Trails Collective, as well as the Trails Collective's YouTube channel. If you want to chime in with any comments or questions for me or our guests, it would be great to have that dialogue, and you can do so on the Trails Collective YouTube channel. Juan, thanks for being on with us. For sure, drop anything as we go into that chat, and we can plug it. For those who are catching it non-live, thanks for tuning in as well. You can always drop any comments into the YouTube feed, and we can try to catch it after the fact. And it'll be another full episode this round. Really, the intent is to try to bring you voices from events, particularly focused on the Beast Coast. I think too often get shirked in maybe some of the media. There's a lot of really wonderful events out there that maybe don't get the exposure that they could otherwise. So it's wonderful to bring you stories, and it doesn't always have to be, I think, maybe dramatic, whatever, or media worthy stuff. It's more just creating the conversation, the dialogue, hearing stories from the trail, and really bringing us all together. I think the trail running community is a really wonderful community at large, in the midst of so much division in the world and in our communities at the moment. I think trails and trail running is an opportunity that really can bring us all together and surpass a lot of the things that we let divide us otherwise. So I'm thankful for this time. I'm thankful to be in contact with so many of you. Thankful to all those who support the Trails Collective in some form, whether it be sharing the posts, whether it be plugging in, whether it give me the heads up on certain events, whether making suggestions. I really appreciate you all plugging in. So we are going to segue or in this intro here for just a couple minutes, and then we're going to move into let's see, I think it's 4 events tonight, and a few voices from each of the events. Here in a minute we're going to start with Tesla Hertz and bring in some voices from the 100 mile, the 150 mile distance, and the RD. We'll move on to Canal Corridor, and we will connect with Jacob Moss and Caleb William Bowen, who just had a pretty both just epic 100 mile runs, pretty phenomenal times, and one that came down to the wire. So we will dig in there a little bit. We will then shift a bit, east, a little bit south at that point, over to West Virginia on a really beautiful race, an event series of races, which is the West Virginia Trilogy. And we'll chat a bit with Jordan Chang, and he's able to make it. Also Keith Knipling. We will bounce from there up north to New Hampshire and Vulcan Fury, and bring in a couple of the top 1 and 2 females, as well as Tom Hooper, the RD. And then we will close out the evening digging in on a couple pretty cool FKTs that were just set, and 2 individuals that ended up unknowingly competing against one another, and making mention of some of the other FKTs on the week. So it should be another pretty packed episode. So for sure, ride it out with us. Plug in if you've got questions. And we are going to actually a couple other things, and we're going to dig in with Tesla Hertz. There are just things that occasionally mentioned on my radar. I just brought up, I think it was Koros, just shared a YouTube video they did with Tim Tollefson. Pretty amazing athlete, speedster. I think his story, as I saw it go down in person this year from Western States, was pretty awesome. And it seems like a pretty personal dig in with him. He is not a Beast Coast voice, but his story, I think, is pretty powerful, and was well done piece from Koros, and you can check that out on YouTube. Some fast outside of Canal Corridor and some of the others we'll talk about. CJ Albertson laid down a 2:38 50K to set a new 50K world record at the Ruth Albertson Memorial Endurance Runs. Cole, I see you on the back end. I'm guessing he steered clear of Gatorade in those final miles to get that job done. And then Emily Sisson's 2:18 American record at Chicago, another really incredible performance. And then a plug for Conquer the World Endurance's fallback into trail runs, 10K, 50K, 100K, running November 5th and 6th, with 50K, 100K being UTM index races. Steve, thanks for being a supporter and plugging into the Trails Collective and keeping us updated. And for those that are in our region, check out the fallback races. Elevation gain, I don't think is crazy there. So I think it's a really good all-comers event. All right, so let's shift to some voices. I am going to bring in Cole Crosby, Fred Morolo, and Vinny Cappadora. Fellas, how's it going?
Awesome. How are you?
Good. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. It's good. Good on the shirt and good fall colors, so you don't get shot like a deer there, Fred. and then Cole, what you sipping on that you're promoting there?
This is my celebratory beer from the race. This is a Montauk Brewing Pumpkin Ale brewed with spices.
And was that on course or post race there, Vinny?
That was a post race pickup.
Post race pickup. Right on. I suppose 150 miles or thereabouts, maybe a couple bonus miles in there is deserving, I suppose, of such things there. Yeah. So we are going to dig in a little bit on Tesla Hertz and who we have on us or with us here this round. Fred's coming to us from Wolcott, Connecticut. Is that where you still are, Fred?
Cheshire, which is like 10 miles from Wolcott. Yeah.
So often when you're just telling people where you're from, do you say Cheshire or do you say from Wolcott just because it's people know maybe Wolcott?
I would probably say I was from Wolcott because that's where I grew up.
Yep. Yeah, it's good.
I made it 10 miles away though, Ian. I really am a real traveler.
You have gone places.
Yeah.
Which maybe at one point would have seemed like a long way, but now the more experienced Fred, that's just like you're just getting started or warmed up at that point on foot.
I could make it to New Haven. You never know.
Well, and so he's the owner of what was once a pretty insane running streak. What was that when it had to be broken?
It was 14,302 days.
All right. So do that quick math for me. How many years is that?
39 years and about a month and a half.
Which is not a short streak at all.
No, it was, it was more than half my life. So, yeah.
And then that was, I can't remember, it was surgery or knee or what brought that to a halt?
It was COVID.
It was COVID.
Yeah.
Damn that COVID.
Yeah. I went down hard with COVID.
Yeah. I guess it's a real thing now. I mean, up until now, I was kind of doubting that it was actually a legit thing, but if it was enough to bring down the streak, I guess it was legit.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be the last person that was going to have it bad. And, I tested positive and I kept running for about a week and then I ended up in intensive care. So, be careful out there, kids.
You could have asked your maybe intensive care nurses at that point, whether you could, because you're still on your streak, like whether you could just kind of, if they could center the bed in the room and just kind of disconnect you and you can kind of run around the bed. You just need to get a couple miles in. That's it.
They wouldn't even let me out of the bed. I was on oxygen the whole time.
Well, that actually could have been beneficial there. I mean,
that's true.
What you could do if you're on oxygen more often.
Now I'm thinking maybe I should have done that at Tesla.
You could have. Speaking of news and the Sierras and all the doping little scandal there with the winner. I mean, you were kind of a little doping on your own in terms of getting some oxygen there in the intensive care.
True. Yeah.
Yep. So he is also one of the linchpins of the Culture Trail and Ultra podcast, which thanks for making some time tonight before hopping off to that episode. What are you guys talking about tonight?
Probably a little Tesla Hertz, but also Art ran Mid-State Massive in Massachusetts last weekend.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Cool. He also put in a Tesla 104 finish in 2015 and was back for another round. No doubt a bit younger and fitter and wiser in the years. So we see how that shook out. Cole Crosby is coming at us from Rhode Island, which is still for some reason seems weird to me that you're in Rhode Island. So he has a number of solid competitive finishes under his belt, including the Wild Ride, which has been 2022, including the Cocodona 250, the World Snowshoe Championships, and that was Argentina. Is that right? Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And then Moby, the most critical win, and probably the one that he got the most probably recognition for, was the win at the 7-Eleven Slurpee Day Ultra 60K in July, which if everybody knows, I mean, that's a pretty stout field there. And if you know Cole's record in trying to go after world records indoor, that simple sugars don't always sit well in his gut. So that was a bold move going with Slurpee Day.
Sit and kick. That was the philosophy that day, and it worked out to perfection.
That's good. And then Vinny Cappadora with us as well as co-creator RD of Tesla Hertz. He and his wife Nicole and a couple of the kids at this point comprise Happily Running. They put on a number of events, including Tesla Hertz, and he is on with us as well. So, Vinny, hopefully you guys are all recovered. I know adding the 150 distance and upping the ante creates that's just a whole nother layer of RD energy.
Yeah, having to have that third day on there. There was a point on Sunday morning where we were like looking and normally where we start wrapping things up and start cleaning up, and we were like, we still have another 30 hours to go at this point. we were like, oh, forget it, let's just leave that there. And then we started, changing strategy to nap times at that point.
Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I mean, it's going to make taking over Virgil Crest seem like small potatoes at that point in terms of time.
Yeah, I think anything under 40 hours at this point is like, that's not too bad.
Yeah. So set the stage for us for Tesla Hertz. Tell us the general overview and gist and what was new this year.
So outside of the cutoff was basically new. So it's a 10.5 mile loop ish that folks can go around anywhere from 10, 50K, 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile. And then this year we added 150. All the distances that are miles are all over. So the 10 mile is over by half a mile. Everything is by half a mile times whatever it is at that point, except for the Ks. They're all pretty spot on just by the way the math works out. So the 100 is 104.8 and the 150 is actually 157.2. And then we we also this year added, being that we're out there, we added a nighttime 10 miler, which was pretty cool and just about as popular as the 10 miler. We had about 12 or 15 folks there. And then one of the things that we've always done for our race is that no matter what distance you're in for, the cutoff is always the same as the longest one that's out there. So a lot of folks showed up to do the 100 miler and a couple to do the 100K and 50 mile that probably would not have been able to do it, or they thought they wouldn't have been able to do it under the normal 30-hour cutoff. Yep. Fred was one of them. And I think it was awesome. It gave them that bit of, some of them, they were able to do it under that 30 miler, that 30-hour cutoff, and it gave them a bit of confidence, a little less worry that they had to do. And then some folks weren't, but it was even, better for them. They just were able to get out there and get after it and not worry about time, knowing that, they could finish it in 48 hours or whatever it was. So it was pretty cool to watch all that stuff.
Fred, did you think you were going to need that extra gain there? I mean, what was the target coming in, and then how it shook out, and then how I guess the benefit of that model works?
It's a double-edged sword, Ian, because if you have a regular cutoff to chase, it makes you focus a little harder. When you have 54 hours to do 100, you can kind of like get in the back seat, and just ride it out a little bit. But my race turned a little weird and ugly at about mile 75 when I hooked my foot on a root and took a spill and wrenched my back, and then it just got worse and worse. Vinny was he bore witness to my finish. I looked like Quasimodo, like staggering up the hill through the lights in the middle of the night. That last loop took me, something ridiculous, like 6 hours. And my last couple of miles were like 40-minute miles because my back was so bad.
Oof.
But once again, the long cutoff gives you a chance to do that. If you want to be stupid, you can, there's your chance. You can be stupid and just ride it out and finish it.
And then the commitment there, man, to be so banged up for it to be taking that long. I think at least for most of us, I would imagine in ultra, particularly the long stuff, there's definitely points where you're out there just being like, what am I doing? Like, I don't really want to be doing this. Like, I don't know. I've got like family, or I could be doing something else. Like, this is stupid. Let alone do I want to, if the wheels fall off and you're like, sweet Jesus, like, I don't want to walk the next like 30 miles. That's going to take a long time. But for you at 75, that's the long walk home.
Yeah. There's a fine line between like dogged determination and pathology. And I think I may have slightly crossed it this time, but
just crossing it.
Yeah,
the 39-year streak, just crossing it though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. It's good that we can making progress. We can acknowledge it now.
If that's the first step, knowing they have a problem.
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
there was also quite a few people coming in ahead of Fred asking, like telling me to go out and make sure that he was okay.
Can you help that poor man?
Yeah, because at one point supposedly he was crawling up a hill, and they had asked or said something about going out there. And once that I realized it was Fred, I was like, don't worry, it's fine. He'll be here. He's good.
Which makes a huge difference in ultra, particularly when people get pretty beat up and in tough ways, and not that something couldn't happen to one of the people that but you kind of know how to read those individuals. And to that point, it's just Fred. Yeah, I mean, not that Fred couldn't have, that would have been his final mile there, but chances are no, he's going to keep crawling his way in here. And so, man, nice work keeping on there. How are you doing now? Just a few days later, are you? I mean, you're upright.
I have kind of like a strained muscle in my back, but I would say I'm about 75% better already.
Yep.
And so, no harm, no foul. Right.
Mm-hmm. And Cole, were you looking much better mechanically around a mile 140 or so, give or take there? Or let's take that back. I mean, of course you're going to be a little crushed there, but how did the 157 go? I mean, did you have some ebbs and flows and points where you just like, dude, I'm done, but just kind of worked out the other side?
Yeah, I mean, I think my story was I went out too fast. I really enjoyed the trails. So the first couple loops, I was just kind of like riding the roller coaster. And then I realized it was going to kind of bite me in the butt later on. The overnight section was really challenging, and I was feeling it at that point. It was like as I was going through like mile 100 to like 120-ish or so. And then once the daytime came about, I kind of felt like reinvigorated, that I could kind of see the trail better. And I took a nap also at like 4 a.m, and that really helped. I looked like a homeless person. I had like a sleeping bag. I had that Mylar blanket that Vinny lent me. And like my dad gave me like another blanket. I had like the Hellgate. I got this Hellgate I'm Stupid blanket. And so I had that on me too. And that's all I needed really to kind of stay alert and kind of have the energy. And I finished really strong. I mean, minus taking a tumble, I scraped my head, my phone bounced. I tripped on a root. My phone bounced on the sand and hit me right in the forehead and scraped up my temple over here. So that was kind of fun going into the last aid station, having blood dripping down and being like, hey, I'm doing just fine. But yeah, all in all, I mean, Vinny knows, he saw me. I mean, I sprinted like as if I was running a 5K. So
and
I would say it turned out well.
What was your finish time again? How long did it take you?
My watch, I got 31 hours and I think it was like 27 minutes or something like that.
And what was your target?
Around there. I was hoping to run as close to about 30 hours as I could. I told Fred when I was out there, I was like, well, right now I'm on pace for like 24 hours for this whole thing. I'm like, if I do that, I'm like, holy crap, that would be just nuts. And little did I know, just the nature of the course, it just beats you up. It's like my hip flexors, like all my joints and tendons were just like stressed the heck. And I probably, now knowing the course, would have used a Theragun like after every lap just to make sure I was loosened up, because that's what was my Achilles heel in this thing. You just get locked up and you're just like trying to run and you feel like you're like, you got, plywood like taped to your back and stuff. So,
which makes the routes that more giant, which seems like a common theme here in that Tesla course, is that one route that clearly took you down with your forehead and then also leveled Fred. I mean, it seems like an RD needs to get out there and maybe just cut some routes out on that course. I mean, it's just the technicality of Long Island. I mean, Fred's in some say that Connecticut's kind of a technical state in terms of trail running, but you put them on the trails of Long Island and just like game on with technicality.
There's about a mile of technicality out there. It just gets everybody.
What happens in the Pine Barrens stays in the Pine Barrens. It's a mysterious place. They got the Long Island devil.
And what's the elevation gain for the 100, give or take, Vinny? Like 104 miles. What's the gain there?
I forget. I looked. It's I think it's about like 3, but somewhere between
Fred,
like 2,500 and 3,000.
Okay. And so for you, Cole, in terms of just for maybe Fred or Cole on that, but Cole, particularly if you're starting out going after a sub 24 hour, 157 mile effort there, So is it just the courses that runnable, that things just, you're like, whoa, like suddenly, like I can run all of this and I just ran like 50 miles straight and suddenly things are not checking out here?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really plan on trying to run that type of time. It just kind of happened. I think the course really suited me. Like reminded me of like a flatter version of Virgil Crest with a little bit less roots and more pine barren sand kind of stuff. But it was reminiscent of that. So I just kind of like went with the flow, and it just so happened that I was running pretty well. And when I started looking at my splits, I'm like, holy crap, like this is probably, not sustainable. But we're just going to ride it out and see what happens. And ultimately I kind of just naturally kind of hit the governor. So when I was at like the 80-mile mark, I started slowing down just a little bit and realized, well, if I get to this time, awesome. If not, it's not the end of the world. Like ultimately I'll finish. My big goal was if I can run around 30 hours for the race, I think that would be a good performance. So, I'm pleased that I was able to kind of hold on and stick that out for that. But yeah, it was cool. It was a really, really fun, as Vinny said, deceptively kind of hard course. Cause it's, it's one that literally I probably walked like 0.05% of that race. I ran almost every step minus the time I took like in aid stations. And I walked like there's like one big hill that you like power hike and stuff, but all the rest of it, I pretty much was in a running motion the whole time. So it creates its own kind of dynamic,
That's a lot of running.
It was.
Fred, aside from kicking that route and going down, how about comparing the, 7 years later or whatever, how'd it go? I mean, any takeaways of like, I was expecting this and here's where my body is now, or
it was about what I expected. After COVID, I never came back 100%. So I'm a little like depleted in my oxygen processing. So I expected to be like 7 hours faster probably than I was, but it was really, once I fell, everything, the wheels came off. But I should mention that this course seems easy. Like you do a loop and you'd be like, oh yeah, this is not bad at all. Cole's a stud. So like, that's like for the real regular people, there are a lot of DNFs. A lot of people finally despair at lap 6 or lap 7. They're like, I just can't do this anymore. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's sandy, it's twisty. It's got these like little hills in it that sort of like that keep you from getting in a groove. And a lot of people drop. Vinny could speak more to that probably though.
Well, that's why we actually came up with these. I don't know if we came up with poker chips now. So if you DNF, instead of you going home with nothing, you get a little poker chip that just says DNF on it, because we have so many DNFs. I think, Fred, you nailed it. There's just a lot. There's the windingness, there's the roots, there's the sand, there's the fact that it's, a looped course and you need that like mental fortitude to get past that. I mean, and then you guys both experienced it too. Like no matter what the temperature says it's going to be, it's always going to be colder in those pine barrens. And then it's like desolate and dark because no matter what as well, there was a full moon this weekend. I don't know if you guys knew that, but you can't see it because of the canopy. So it's just it's not what you expect when you think of a Long Island race. So I think a lot of people come into that with one mindset, and then a lot of return folks end up finishing it. So they come in, they DNF, they come back and they get it.
And the format, you allow people to change distances there, so you come in, register for you DNF, you DNF.
Yeah, so that was kind of our rule. Like, so we say it at the beginning. We say it quite often in the racer emails and stuff like that. That's the one rule that we have. But with that, there's two things. One, you can change your distance right up to the morning of, so you can do whatever you want to do right at the time that you pick up your bib. And we will do anything. Nicole has gone out and paced people. She's gone out and paced people. We've had requests for food and we've gone and got them. There used to be a 24-hour grocery store. Now it closes around 11. So we take orders from people. If you need it, we'll do whatever. I've popped blisters for people. I've gotten over into stuff and like talked to people and helped them out. So we'll do whatever we can to get you going. But we think that when you toe the line for something at that race, especially, you can do it. It's just going to be a matter of if you want to or not. And we're willing to help you do whatever you can. But anything other than what you started is a DNF.
Yep.
And I subscribe to that 100%, except in the middle of the night, Saturday night, I was using the MF word with, Vinny's name attached to it for not being able to drop to 100K, because I could have been home and had a whole other day.
Well, it's funny you say that, Fred, too, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, why didn't I just decide to do the 104 miler? I mean, it's still above 100 miles, because I was like maybe like a loop or two away from doing that. And I'm like, I'm going to have to endure another like 4 laps, and that's just, you think of that in your head, you're like, that's impossible. Like, my body's hurting really bad. How am I going to do that?
Well, that's a pretty amazing thing where you can do that. And I guess the confidence, you having done Cocodona 250 and having run across New Jersey and those things. I mean, there's that speaking of Central Governor earlier, I mean, that's in there now. Like, you've done that. You've been to those spots, and man, as long as you don't pull the plug, or unless your grundle doesn't get shaved to all oblivion, chances are you're going to finish that thing. Yeah. And then Fred, man, again, to have that last 25 miles, you're literally having to crawl on some of the uphills, and just to get that done, that finish or that buckle must have been amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice buckle.
Looks like a nice buckle.
Yeah, and to be fair, the crawling was really only one little spot where you come off the road and you have to go up this series of routes, and I did that on all fours because I didn't want to fall backwards at that point because I was in such bad shape.
It's out there now. I mean, Connecticut Fred can't handle a Long Island technicality and actually has to crawl on the ascents. I mean,
that's it.
Well, yeah, right on.
4 legs better than 2, and so.
Yeah, we're all going to get there, and some sooner than others.
Yeah. I want to give Vinny some props too, and like his whole crew and stuff. Like, I feel like they helped everybody achieve their finishes and stuff too. Because like, if I didn't have like the bacon, that saved me. Like, I took a shot of Fireball, that surprisingly saved me. I mean, the potatoes, like, just the positivity of everybody and just the community that was kind of out there was just like really inspiring. Just seeing people that you normally, wouldn't expect, like, they're doing their first 100 and they're just out there crushing it. I'm just like just blown away by these people with these their positive attitudes, and just hearing some of their stories as I've like go by the laps, and I'll like stop briefly and like get a little intel from them. It's just super inspiring. So, I think everyone's finishes were kind of very much a collaborative kind of team effort. So props to Vinny, Nicole, and the whole team.
Yeah, the aid station people were super. Back at the Whiskey Grill aid station, the far one, Vinny's father-in-law is out there, and he's great. And Thaddeus was there. He's a super guy. And there's another dude whose name I'm forgetting, but they put in such put in such long hours, and they would give you like hot soup in the middle of the night when it was freezing and stuff. And then the main aid station had Vinny and Nicole up for like 2.5 days doing everything. So, and blasting fish the whole time too. So, I mean, like, what's not to love?
That's a lot of bouncing around the room.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was
right on.
Yep.
Well, guys, congrats all around. Cole, 157 miles, and the way you ran it is pretty awesome. Nice work, and especially the eclectic year that you have. Man, that's just a versatile year. So nice work. Fred, good job getting back in the saddle of that one. And glad that you're not holding to another streak, right? You didn't restart that, or you taking some days off?
Well, I did.
Come on, man. Gosh, 39 year streak that ends. Maybe just take some days off here and there. Yeah.
What does it say? Like, as a dog goes back to its vomit, a man goes back to his folly, or something like that. It's a biblical thing, I couldn't help it.
Well, I guess then 1 week off in the context of a 70-year career that you'll have. I mean, that's pretty good, I guess. Yeah. And then Vinny, congrats on another successful round there. And I'm glad that it's growing and it's doing well, and it all went pretty smoothly, it sounds like.
Yeah, very. There was a 2-hour chaos, but after that, it was pretty wild. So,
cool. Right on.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for carving some of your time out. Fred, I hope it's a fun session with the Culture podcast ahead.
Sure
thanks for making this work ahead.
Yeah,
and
I appreciate it. The guys said bye to Ellie too. They feel bad that Ellie's heading west. So
Yeah,
they
well,
wanted me
it
to
was
say
nice to have her in the time that we did, but it was a pretty outstanding opportunity that she
Yeah.
was cast
Yeah.
her way. So I guess I can't beat up on her too much for that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. All right, guys.
right.
Well, I will talk to you all later.
Take care. Thanks.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
All right, we are going to shift gears here, and I am going to weave in Caleb Bowen as well as Jacob Moss. Good to see you both. Thanks for bearing with me here as we push back a little bit. Keith, thanks for being on the back end as well. I'm glad you made it, and we'll roll into that segment, I believe, next in the lineup. So we are going to turn our attention to the Canal Corridor 100. It's a 100-mile event using the Towpath Trail based in Akron, Ohio, and with a start-finish at the Missing Falls Brewery. It follows, if I was getting it correctly, basically a dual out and back, 24-ish miles out either direction from the center. 8 stations are aptly located between 5 and 7 mile intervals, and the total elevation gain over 100 miles is only 807 feet, which is just, man, that's ridiculous in the flat sense. So the prior overall men's course record did stand with Arlen Glick, who covered it in 13 hours, 42 minutes in 2022, and Paul Jacob shortly behind him time-wise in 2021. For those of you who don't know Arlen and Paul, pretty phenomenal athletes. So to have those times posted were already pretty remarkable. This year, that record fell with the overall win going to Caleb Bowen in 12 hours and 40 minutes, nearly an hour ahead of Arlen's already wicked fast time. Crazier, Caleb didn't secure the pole for the win until mile 99.4, overtaking Jacob Moss, who finished only a minute behind in 12:41. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So Caleb is coming to us from Huntington, West Virginia. He's a head cross country and assistant track coach for Marshall University. He's laid down a number of really awesome efforts at Rim to River, Highland Sky, and a token one at Naked Bavarian there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jacob Moss, I believe you're coming to us from Charleston, South Carolina. Is that where you're in from?
Yep.
Right on. What do you do outside of training for a 12-hour, 42-minute 100-miler?
Work at Navy Federal full-time.
Right on. All right. And he has also some pretty fast prior finishes, including a 12-hour 54 Tunnel Hill this past November. So, gents, man, that's pretty mind-boggling. I mean, I guess at one level, you guys were done in like 12 hours and 45 minutes. So, you pretty much can work the daylight and be in your beds at night. Whereas, those that are out there, the max length of a course at like 30 hours, I mean, that's a whatever, like incredible time and effort being out there. But man, just like the effort. So let's dig into it a little bit here. So question and or conversation guide number 1. So with a start at Missing Falls Brewery, did you really not see the waterfall there? And if indeed still missing, do you think that climate change is to blame and that this race is really a subversive effort to highlight global warming?
Jacob, you want to answer that first?
I didn't see a waterfall.
Dude, come on, like, how do you miss a waterfall? Like, I don't get it. That just seems like either you're not paying attention or that's just like aptly named on a map or something like that. But I'm assuming that's what most people wanted to know first, so I thought I'd lead in there. All right, so moving on. So Caleb, you've had a pretty awesome year and build sequence into this past weekend, and clearly pretty intentional in your race calendar. You had fast times and wins at 50K to 40 miles distances in March, May, June, and August. The base was set, and I'd guess none of those efforts crushing your system and allowing you really consistent training cycles. You had an awesome effort at Hurricane 100 and 100K, including a duel down to the wire as well on September 10th. Pretty perfect timing. So pretty intentional year laid out, and it did to kind of go as you'd hoped.
Yeah, it did. So I originally wanted to do Rim to River 100 mile again in November. So I laid out my schedule kind of like leading up to that. And that's why I chose Hurricane 100K, because that's going to be in September. It's going to be a perfect time to do the Hurricane 100K, with over a month and a half left to train and everything. But I decided I really wanted to do Bandera, just because I wanted to do it last year. I mean, you got me onto it last year, and wasn't able to do it just due to injury after Rip to River. So I figured it'd be smart to do a earlier 100-mile race, to get into the lottery for Western States and to just have a little more time to recover and get a good training block in. So I chose Canal Corridor mainly because it was something new. It was, I mean, obviously it's flat and fast. That was part of the deal. I was hoping that being flat and fast that I would recover better from it. I mean, I think so. Like I haven't yet. I've taken some walks, and so far everything's feeling pretty good. But I'm going to try to do a better job of coming back and trying to be a little bit more mindful of what my muscles are telling me. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of intentional, to do a lot of like smaller races or shorter races earlier in the season. Starting off with Nich and Bavarian, that was a really fun event. Up there in Pennsylvania, got to see a whole lot of people that I knew from college because they live up there now. And then like a lot of the local races, like Highland Sky 40-mile race, Canal Trace 50K, Hurricane 100K. They're all like kind of in my backyard. So that was really fun to go to those. Thunder Bunny as well. And the funny thing about Thunder Bunny is that's where I met my pacer, Jeremy Pope, at. So we got to talk and everything. We really got to know each other, and he ultimately became my pacer. So Canal Corridor was just something new and exciting. I'm a trail guy. I love the roads, but I haven't been on the roads for a while now. So it was scary. Like I literally was more nervous about this race than I've ever had before, because how do you go into it knowing like, hey, I'm going to try to run like 720 pace until I can't anymore? It's a freaky, thing to think about beforehand. And I just really didn't know how I was going to go. Cause like in a trail race, a hill will slow you down, or a waterfall, there's things that slow you down on the course. This time it was just literally your body slowing you down. And that's a terrifying thing to think about. So, I had no clue what to expect. I was hoping for sub 13. I was really hoping for 12:45. That was like my ultimate goal, but 13 would have been awesome. And, ultimately like the race, like having Jacob out there, like trying to cut the gap down as much as I could throughout the day really helped. But also like the pacers really helped as well. Just having a fun day out in the Canal Corridor. So, I mean, yeah, that's part of it too.
Well, that it seemed to work there in terms of the sequence. So if anybody's after maybe an ideal, calendar focused on a fast 100, maybe just hop on that train of what you just did. And then and we'll maybe dig into a couple of those points that you just brought up as you were talking there. And then Jacob, you had some solid, but not necessarily like record shattering 24-hour events this year. Maybe there were a couple not in ultra sign up that I'm just not seeing in terms of results, but wasn't necessarily in as race heavy. But some of those efforts, I mean, yeah, you got in, some fast efforts, but this seemed to kind of break that mold in terms of you just came out like just firing, and it just like clicked out there. So were there others that I'm not necessarily seeing there in your build up, or what was your sequence for this year?
No. So this year's been drastically different for me because, I mean, coming out of Tunnel Hill last year, I ran 12:54 there. I ended up with my hips really being jacked up coming out of Tunnel Hill. One thing I didn't realize about that race is its uphill is about 9 miles long. I think it's 9 miles. So I had done zero hill training at all, and my hips were wrecked. That's actually the reason I ended up dropping out of Desert Solstice that December. So I stopped around, I think, 85 miles at Desert Solstice at around 12 hours. So then I ended up battling injury pretty much the whole way through. I ran Alexander County in April, I think. Had some issues there with breathing, allergy stuff. Wasn't able to take a breath, so I had to pull out of that. And then I continued to have the hip issue stuff all the way through. And then I ran Merrill's Mile, and I was aiming to hit an early season double marathon in the 6 hour as a good speed test for a 100-miler. And someone stepped out in front of me there, hit the brakes, and my hip gave out completely. I was about halfway. So that ended that. All in all, this ended up being like an 8-week build for me. So it was a really quick ramp. I definitely focused on a lot of speed work. So yeah, my season ended up being a lot different than what I've done in the past. So
yeah, and so man, so for all those setbacks earlier in terms of in your mind and what you built to and what could have been, I mean, it's got to feel awesome that this just, I mean, it came together. Like, yeah,
yeah, for sure.
No unforeseen climbs, no cars kind of, jumping out in front of you there.
Yeah. For me, I don't know. I think the elevation might be a little more than 800. I think it's closer to probably 1600. Yeah. But it's still a super fast course. I think Tunnel Hill's somewhere around 19, if I remember right. So, I mean, it's still super flat and fast, but it's definitely got a little more than I expected. But
and so a question in from Scott, and Scott Brook here, and thanks, Scott, for being on here live. Caleb and Jacob have the top 100 times of the year. I don't know whether are you guys on top? I know you're in that mix, but do you guys know what you are?
Caleb's top.
Yep.
And then I'm third, I think.
Oh, really? There was somebody that tweaked in that 1 minute between you guys?
Yeah. Camille Heron from Jackpot.
Yeah. Camille Heron. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty incredible. So did you guys know each other? I'm assuming you did coming in and kind of seeing it. No. Oh, wow. So this was just like, I don't know who that, I mean, you kind of learn who they are in the context of the 100 or whatever, but it was really just an unknown. And like, dude, there's like, I'm running well, but there's this guy ahead of me, or there's this guy trailing me or whatever. Like it was an unknown.
Yeah. So like 3 days before the race, I looked at the ultra sign up, which I told myself, well, I wasn't going to do, but I did. And I saw him. I was like, oh shoot. Oh, there he is. Okay. So I looked up his, Tunnel Hill time, and I saw that. Yeah. I looked on Instagram and saw his 24-hour stuff. I was like, well, this guy's going to be really tough, because if you can do a 24-hour event, that means you got the endurance to do anything. So I knew who he was at the time, like from that, but beforehand, like 3 days before, I had no clue. But
so do you think that was a blessing then? I mean, looking at ultra sign up, and you may have then resigned him to like, I don't know, there's just like this young kid taking it out fast. He's going to, explode or come back, and you would have maybe written him off. Instead, you're like, clearly, if he's got a good day, he's not going anywhere, and I got to stay close. So
early in the race, he took off from the gun. And I mean, to be honest, we were too. We were running like 7.0, 7.02, 7.03. And I remember telling Nick, who was right beside me, I was like, hey, if he just keeps it up, he's going to have like a really big record. So it's going to be really cool to be a part of this. But we don't want to blow up, because we're not on that level. So just let it happen. If it happens, great. Like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then Jacob, how about for you in terms of, were you aware of Caleb, or kind of knew you'd be hunted or whatever? No,
I looked through ultra sign up just to see kind of who would be there. And when I got there, I asked Bill Schultz if he knew anyone that was planning on running up front. And he didn't know of anyone in particular. I was hoping to have someone to spend the day with. It kind of ended up that way, which was pretty cool. Because it's not often you get someone to be up there all day. So it made it a lot of fun out there on the course.
And so the references were just in terms of Caleb overtaking you at 99.4, but not necessarily the talk before that. I mean, did you guys spend quite a bit of the day together, or you were within proximity but not running together?
Yeah, so the whole day I was hearing, hey, he's 6 minutes ahead, or 5 minutes ahead, or 4 minutes ahead. And to be honest, I really wish they would stop telling me, because I really like that.
That's got to be maddening.
I'm the opposite.
I was like, please stop. Like there's this one guy who's on a bike who literally like went to every aid station, told me, I'm like, I really need you to stop, please, because it's way too early, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And then whenever I picked up Arlen, he's like forming a plan of how to catch him. I'm like, Arlen, it's way too early. I really I'm just happy to be here, man. Like, just let me run.
Yeah, that was the opposite for me. I didn't hear a word all day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Only time I knew when you were close was at the turnarounds. Mm-hmm. So I saw you twice, and I tried to do some quick math in my head and try to figure out, how far back are they, which is kind of hard with the turnaround because I didn't note when I turned around.
Yeah.
So
what's that say about the spectators, where everybody's feeding Caleb all this information, but like Jacob's just like in the dark, like, oh nope, nobody's back there. You're fine. We'll just you just do your thing.
Yep.
Yeah, my wife was crewing me, so yeah, she didn't. She's kind of learned that if I get off pace a little bit, I can normally manage myself pretty well early on, so I don't blow up at this point. I've blown up enough times to where I start to pick up cues a little earlier, fortunately. It comes with experience, I guess. So I was able to manage it going through, and I just tapered down and let it happen. But yeah.
So maybe on the where it's I mean, more than just speaking to nutrition rather, 13 hours and the effort that you guys were running. I mean, so I guess just to put it in a point of comparison. So if you were just to do a flat, full effort marathon at this point, what kind of fitness do you think you guys each have?
I don't know. I mean, so last year building up to Rim to River, I hopped into a pretty flat, like Greenbrier River Trail marathon. It's like all like basically the same thing as what we just did, but it's all slightly downhill. I ran 2:32, completely solo. It felt just really nice and comfortable the whole time. So maybe somewhere around there, maybe a little bit faster. I mean, I don't know. I did PR through the 50K, which was pretty cool, and then the 50 mile and 100K and everything else as well. But during this race, but yeah, I really don't know. I think I would like to think 2:28 would be really like doable in the like the perfect conditions and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's really hard to say for me because, like, especially during the summer, I try to hit like 3 o'clock, so it's the hottest time of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the time, I'll shoot for anywhere between 2:16 and 2:25 paces for marathon when I run those paces.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's hard to say because I'm running. I might do like a 5x5K at that. But that's not the same as a marathon. So
yeah. So to then stick, and I would assume, Caleb, that you'd be under that 225 mark as well, even if you're kind of focused on mountain and that's kind of where your legs and your passion are. I would guess your wheelhouse is down there as well, 220 to 225, but maybe not. I mean, I guess that's the interesting thing about people's unique matrices in terms of where they end up there. But the kind of a sub-maximal effort there. I mean, your body processes, I mean, I guess it can process some simple sugars, but it's only 13 hours. You can kind of get by. It's not like a 30-hour race where things maybe change for most people in terms of what your body's asking for. So what was the nutritional strategy, and did that become part of then, Jacob, in terms of your cues of if you got to catch something that's starting to brew in the system, I guess?
Yeah, so a lot of the time I'll know if I'm overdoing it. I did overdo it early on. I ended up using the restroom way too many times. I think I ended up stopping like 10 to 13 times I think probably in the first 50. So
dude, you could have run like a 12:10, this weekend. I mean, we just need to get you a catheter out there on the run and just let you roll with it. But so what were you overdoing in terms of just taking in too much fluid, or what was?
Yeah, mainly liquid. I may have overdone a little bit of sodium. Yeah, that one's a little hard to say on if it was sodium or just straight calories. I was throwing in some gels in the beginning, which I cut out. So it's kind of hard to say on that. I'll have to play with it in training to figure out exactly what was going on. But yeah, I did cut out some gels and that helped. But
what was your target in terms of caloric intake and fluids?
Probably around 600, 700 milliliters an hour, somewhere in that range. I was taking in probably about 500 calories an hour or so.
Oh, wow. So you were,
400 or 500.
That's impressive. For that effort, you were putting it down.
Mm-hmm.
Is that typical for you? Your body can do well with that amount or those levels?
Yeah. I've actually had races where I did a lot more than that. Like when I ran at the Dome I started at 7. I used 7 Martins an hour starting, which those are 100 calories each.
Mm-hmm.
I did not end up having the race I wanted at that race, but yeah, I mean, it's doable, but I don't know that it's necessary at this point. So,
and just seeing you being young, thin there, just as I'm looking at you, I mean, I imagine your furnace is pretty wicked hot, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty high burn rate. That's pretty impressive. And then Caleb, what was your target and how'd it go?
I don't know if I had a target by any means, but I was experiencing kind of the same thing early on. I just had to pee it seemed like 30 minutes because it was chilly. It wasn't cold by any means, but it's chilly. So we weren't really sweating a whole lot. And yeah, I was taking in quite a bit of fluids. I used the Science and Sport electrolyte drink that has like 36 grams of carbohydrates, probably like 120 calories. And because like my main concern was just cramping up. I had never run that fast for that far before, so I figured I would cramp up in like the 70s or 80s. So I really wanted to make sure I dialed down on electrolytes if I could. But yeah, I mean, I felt like I had to pee a lot, and then whenever I did pee, it was like 30 seconds long. I'm like, walking by, like I'm still over.
I'm good here. Yeah, I'm still going. I'm good though. Yeah.
And so I got really frustrated with that, but like I kept telling myself, like, you have to pee. You can't just hold it in because it's gonna come out somehow. So
there are some that go in a bottle.
Yeah, probably should have.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe ahead of your time. You guys may be too young. I don't know whether you've ever seen the skit from the Love Toilet from Saturday Night Live from back in the day. If not, you'll have to Google the Love Toilet for an image there. But you guys just needed to sink your efforts there. And like every, I don't know, whatever minutes, you just needed to hop on a shared toilet and just be like, I don't know, how was that section? Let's talk about it. And then just, go back out together there. So that's quite the tango.
Yeah.
And so for being such a consistent effort, at least the target, I mean, pacers be beneficial just have a metronome out there on that course. And Caleb, Arlen is probably as solid as they come in terms of the knowledge of the 100-mile distance as well as that course. And for this race, for both of you, how they play out in terms of the crews and pacers, and were they crux for this effort? Did you find yourselves fairly self-sufficient out there?
So that was like my biggest pride of like going into the race, because I was like, I have a really great crew. My parents were there. Chris and Holly Ann Swan. Holly Ann was my last pacer. Chris had crewed me for my 100 milers last year. And then where I met Jeremy Pope through Thunder Bunny, we just kept in contact, and I knew he was from the area, so I reached out to him. And then actually on Trails Collective Live back after Western State, Arlen Glick made a comment saying that he would pace me for Mohegan. So a couple days later, I just reached out and said, like, hey, what are you doing on October 8th? And he literally responded with, hopefully pacing you at Canal Corridor. So I was like, sick, perfect. Like I wrote him in, and then sure enough, like I was afraid that he would find something else better to do, but he didn't, thankfully. And yeah, so I really think I nailed not only pacers, but like where they were supposed to be. Like, I had Arlen for 21 miles, Jeremy for 25, and Holland for 6, because they're exactly what I needed for that time. Like, I thought that one of the hardest points in the race would be around like 60-ish, 50 to 60, because you still have like halfway to go. You're over halfway, but there's still a lot of mileage left. So I thought Arlen, having all those stories about all the races he's done and having just the wisdom, I mean, it worked out really well. And then Jeremy, he was like a breath of fresh air. Like, we just vibed the whole time, and we literally talked from the moment he started pacing me to like the moment he stopped. Like, we were just telling stories about Boston 2018, his story about how he lost weight and just how he became an ultra runner. Like, it was just amazing. And then like Holly Ann, she's like my best friend. She's we train together every day, so she knows all the cues of like when I'm hurting, when I'm not. And like I've been telling a story for a while now, but I was very content and happy with where I was running, like that last 6 miles. But she was like, no, you can do this. You can catch him. I'm like, I can't see him. Like, he's way too far ahead. But then like she, for somehow, like I don't know how she did it, but she got me to start cranking him down. And then in the last, couple of miles, it became a race. And I thank her for that, because I was very happy with just coasting it in, running a little bit slower and just enjoying it. But, she got me going. So crew and pacers, they were awesome. And like even before then, like the first 50, running with Nick, I forgot his last name. Like I can't say it because it's something, kind of weird. But he was awesome too. Like just talking to him and listening to his story. Like I felt like I was talking the entire day. And I think that was really beneficial.
Yeah.
And then Jacob, how about on your end? I kind of want to probe there a little bit into the final miles with Holly Ann having a tractor beam pull on Jacob there. But we'll get back to that. So Jacob, how about on your end for crews and pacers?
Yeah. So for me, I had my wife there crewing. I'm a pretty analytical type of person. So I had everything laid out in a spreadsheet, exactly what I needed. Everything specific down to how many minutes it would take her to get from A to A, all of that. So that made it pretty easier for her, but she's crewed me enough times. She's really good with handoffs, really good with everything. I didn't have any pacers. So I was out there. It was kind of,
is that good? Or would you prefer pacers if it would have come together? Or are you somebody that doesn't really want pacers out there?
I haven't really ran with pacers before. I did run with Zach Bitter for quite a while when we were at Tunnel Hill. It was nice to share some miles with him. But outside of that, I've never really ran with a pacer. There's been a couple of times late in a 24-hour that I'll hop behind someone and trail them just for a while, just to take a mental break. But for the most part, I've not really experienced what it's like. So I have gotten pretty good at self-pacing. So like when I fell off target for this, you can kind of see, I think it's around mile 45. It was the first time I dipped below 7-minute mile. And I just kind of tapered down from there. So, yeah, I'd be interested to experiment with having a pacer.
Mm-hmm.
I know I've shot for US team multiple times for the 24-hour. Did it at Stinger in 2020, but you can't have a pacer to qualify. So unless they're on the same lap with you, you can't. And in the race, you can't be with them. So yeah, it'd be interesting in the future if I give that a shot or not, but we'll see.
So in those final couple miles then, so with Holly Ann prompting you, Caleb, to do what you could to reel him back in, was it just this kind of general conceptual, we kind of know he's out there, or did she have some sort of awareness or feedback that, hey, you're actually closing in and he's actually right around that next bend or whatever, versus like still 5 minutes ahead?
Well, so at the second to last aid station I picked her up, we were told that Jacob was like 3 minutes ahead. So I was like, okay. And then the next 2 or 3 miles were actually my slowest miles of the day, like 8:03, 8:03, 8:03. I'm like, I'm running, like, I feel like I'm running faster, but like I'm running like actually slower. And I think because the light, like the sun had just set, so it's getting dark. And then we get to the last aid station, and Arlen says that Jacob is 2 minutes and 10 seconds. I'm like, okay, well, we made 50 seconds. That's good. And we didn't stop at that one. And then there was a person out on the trail who said, he like looked at his watch. He said, he's 90 seconds ahead. And typically I would like dismiss that because like a lot of people told me different things and they were wrong. But I was like,
was he on a bike?
I think so. Yeah.
So that same guy passed me about 2 to 3 miles out. And I asked him how far back you were just because I was interested. Yeah. And he said he's about a mile behind you. There's no way he'll catch you as long as you hold pace.
Oh.
And I held pace.
Uh-huh.
I held pace spot on.
Yeah.
So interesting.
He's like 90 seconds. I'm like, that's oddly specific. I think he's probably telling the truth. Like, okay, we're making some time. Okay.
We need to find that guy. He was kind of crux on how that went down at the end.
So that actually is like lit a fire a little bit. And, I really didn't know if I could make it up. But like, if you look at my splits, I did run like a 740 that next mile, and then we start up the hill, and I think I broke 8 for that one too. I think it's like 750, and that, like, I felt better running up the hill than I had beforehand, like the previous miles, just because something changed. Like when you run the same flat trail for so long, you just need something different. So we were surging up that hill, and that's when it happened, because like we were probably halfway up. I think there's like this little curve, and then all of a sudden we saw his white shirt, and then it's like the Rocky music started playing. You know, and then it's like, we gotta, like, first off, I said a really, you know, bad word in my head that starts with F and it rhymes with duck, and then like we just started going like hard, because the way Holly Ann paces, it's not like she runs with me, she just runs ahead of me, and I try to keep up if possible, and that's just the way we run in general too. So she was like pulling me along, and then we eventually caught Jacob at a street crossing.
Yeah.
And
it was right around where that brick wall is.
Yeah.
With the lamps.
Yep.
The street lights, I mean.
And then we ran together for a little bit of time, and then like she was leaving me, so I was like, I have to, like, I don't want
to go now. Like, she's up there. I gotta go. Jacob, it was nice to chat with you for a minute. I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Well, I was like, I literally don't want this to be a sprint to the finish, because I really don't know if I can go any faster. But like, I have to open up now, and you know, I think there was like a little downhill section right after that, and I remember she like yelled at me like, "Watch out for the leaves," and I ran straight through the leaves, which was, I think she was afraid that it was going to be slick, because that would happen. You know, you pass somebody and then also that you fall, like that would happen. And then after that, like, I didn't look back. I didn't try to listen for anything. I just tried to run as hard as I could. And ultimately got there. So,
and then Jacob, for you, for that effort all day, just being out there, I mean, man, that's intense to have it all come together. And then literally in the last half mile, I mean, you're going kind of, that's all you got at that point. I mean, that's kind of what was in the tank. I mean, it seemed like, come on, man, like a half more mile, throw down with him. But I mean, that's just where you were.
Well, yeah, and kind of with me is I live in Charleston, so we have 0 hills here, and that last section is like the biggest section of gain in the whole race. So that really played to my disadvantage, because I slowed up a little bit toward the top of the hill, and that's about where they passed me. And then like my last mile was a 7:48, so as soon as I hit the flat again, I was perfectly fine. But that hill really played to my disadvantage for sure.
It's crazy to see you two come together on such a phenomenal effort. But Caleb, having your share of success with some mountain races. I mean, I guess some of the races that you've done aren't necessarily a huge amount of cumulative gain. I mean, they may be kind of middle of the road in that regard, but definitely seasoned on mountains, hills, or whatever. And then Jacob coming in flat and have it come down to meeting there in that final mile. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Thankful for all the hill repeats I did.
Yeah. Again, and for all the hill repeats that Jacob didn't have the ability to do, I suppose. And,
well, I did do some out on we have the Arthur Ravenel Bridge, which is, it's like a 6% grade. So it's really close to the same grade as what we were running on.
Yeah.
I did some like 300-400 meter repeats, but it's about half an hour from where I live. So I can't get out there multiple times a week even. So I probably did 3 or 4 sessions, but it wasn't enough. So
yeah. Well, truly incredible, guys, truly incredible effort. Is there anything else that would be fun to chat on the event or the day, or kind of where you guys go from here?
What you got next, Caleb?
Well, I'm hoping to do Bandera in January. I think I want to just try to get a good training block in for that. Yeah, that's probably about it. And then after that, hopefully Gorge Waterfalls. I've signed up for that. It was a really fun time, like following the race last year. So I think it'd be a good one to go to.
Yeah.
What about you?
I am hitting the Stinger November 12th.
Yeah.
24-hour.
Nice. So is the goal are you going to go to Desert Solstice again, or are you just going to do that 24-hour team?
No, the Stinger's my favorite race in the nation by far. I just found out I think they'll have a DJ all 24 hours, which is going to be awesome.
That's a lot of DJ. It's
a lot of DJ. I don't know if it'll be the same one or if they're going to rotate them, or I don't know how someone could DJ 24 hours. That should be a race in and of itself. But yeah, so that one will be mine. After that, don't know yet. Maybe Spartathlon next year, or Tunnel Hill again. We'll see.
Nice.
And does this effort put you on some radars for anybody reaching out to you for like kind of increased support or presence?
For me?
Either one of you.
Not for me yet. I do have a couple contacts I'm going to reach out to and see what I can get done there. I've tried to reach out through them before, but it hasn't worked out quite yet. So we'll see if anything pulls through this time.
I wonder if you could just change your residence on your papers or ultra sign up to either Boulder or something like maybe San Francisco or something, or maybe somewhere in Montana. Then maybe you'll start getting those letters of contacts.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I know. Well, right on, guys. It was truly incredible effort. Hopefully you're both really proud of the efforts, and it'll be really fun to see where you continue to both go from here. And so thanks for carving out a bit of your time here tonight. Thanks for running a little bit long. And for those on the back end, like Jordan or Keith, thanks for running long. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on.
Totally. All right. I'll talk to you more later.
All right. See ya.
All right.
See ya.
All right. We are going to shift gears, still stay somewhat in the same neck of the woods. Going to weave in Keith. Keith, I'm glad you could make it. Hopefully it was a good trip back. And then Jordan, let me grab you as well. Thanks for being on here, guys. And thanks for flexing on time, and for Hooper on the back end, and Wavey being in there, and Haley and Julia and Nich. Thanks for all being on and flexing with some time here. So thank you, guys. So we are going to turn toward the West Virginia Trilogy. This is one that's been on my personal radar for, I think, years now. I think around the COVID time, I was trying to get down there, and I think COVID got in the way of that. So hopefully I still can. It becomes a little tough because I'm coaching in the fall, and so I have to try to figure that out. But from everything I've heard of the West Virginia Trilogy, and for those who have not found your way there yet, truly just beautiful event. Just beautiful, feels wild, feels rugged. Some of the times aren't necessarily as reflective of some of the speed of the effort, in the sense that the course it's pretty raw, I think, out there in certain sections, but it just seems really beautiful. So we're going to dig into this one a little bit. And so actually, let me preface one more, and then I'll introduce Jordan and Keith here for a second. So what is the West Virginia Trilogy? So it's 3 days of racing in Monongahela National Forest, centered at Spruce Knob and Seneca Rocks National Recreation Area in Circleville, West Virginia. Day 1 is a 50K. Day 2 is a 50 mile. Day 3 is the 13.1 mile. So cumulative distance, if I'm remembering right, around like 94 miles. And the actuality is just a wild, less populated landscape. And it was cool to hear, or I think read a couple of your comments, Keith, on Facebook before I reached out to you on commenting on just that. Aid stations are further apart than many races, so it makes it a little bit tougher in that regard than some people may be used to. The elevation gain is fairly par for a trail course, with 4,800 of gain in the 50K, 8,300 for the 50 mile, 1,400 for the half, give or take on all of those. So a decent amount. Pair that with a fairly just wild course. I imagine the elevation gain feels more than just those numbers are. So Jordan's coming at us. And Jordan, you're a physical therapist. Is that by day?
Yeah, I'm a physical therapist.
Right on. I'm guessing a lot of people can use you this week post race. and you're still in Blacksburg. Is that where you're based?
Yes, sir. Blacksburg,
right on.
Virginia.
Sweet. Only been a couple times. I had, I think, fun runs up to what seemed like a pretty fun swimming hole somewhere
Over in the Cascades, probably waterfall, swimming hole.
Yeah, that's probably right. A steady state fixture in Virginia Regional Trail community with a number of return finishes at events such as Hellgate, Promised Land, and Iron Mountain, as well as heading west every couple of years for a signature 100 miler. This year included an awesome third place finish at Bighorn. This was, I think, your fourth round of the trilogy. Is that right? Yeah. And with solid efforts all around, but missing your 2019, I think, combined best by 2 minutes. Was that the delta that?
I think I went faster by a little bit.
Oh, right on.
No, I haven't seen results yet. I don't know. But I think I PR'd by a little bit, I hope. I don't know.
Oh, nice work. Adam sent me the preliminary results.
Oh, maybe I did it. He didn't send me the results.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it in maybe preliminary form in case I don't want to, take you down that path of like.
It was right around the same time.
And so solid. And then Keith, I don't know if we met at Promised Land briefly. I think that I've long known, I think of your family from the time that I was getting into trail and ultra around 2001. I think my first event out of college, I went from, I was focused on cross and steeple in college. And then I think my first real race after that was making a run at Massanutten. So that would have been in, I don't know, like 2001 or something like that. So I think I knew you guys long before I actually knew you, and I wasn't able to really dig in on stalk you as much as I just did with Jordan, because I didn't know whether you're going to be able to make it, and then ran out of time there. But for sure, also just a fixture in that Virginia and surrounding scene for a number of years, and I imagine just returning to a lot of the same events that now Jordan is finding himself in kind of the Horton and larger circle, which goes back a ways. So, and this was your first trilogy, right? I caught that post right?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of unusual because it's pretty rare that I get to do something new these days, especially so close to home. So something I had slept on for a while, and I only did the one event. I think that's kind of the beauty of the whole trilogy. You can either knock yourself out and do all three and run them fast like Jordan, or you can, if you want to balance a family or whatever, you can go out there and make it a weekend. And they even have a kids race. They have a kids race on Sunday well, it's a 5K, but a lot of kids do it. In fact, both winners were like under 14, so there's a lot of like young teens both boys and girls won it, but like there's some toddlers that kind of shuffle out there too, and older folks too. So, I mean, it's kind of like, it's just a cool event. Very old school. I mean, you really literally are off the grid. You go up to this, the idea is you go up there and you spend the weekend up there. It's at 4,000 feet. It's in the shadow of Spruce Knob, which is the highest peak. And you're on this 400-acre nature. It's an outdoor education center that basically Adam and Dan found as a venue for this race. And they've been doing it for 11. This was the 11th. They had a couple COVID years in there, so they've actually been doing it longer than that. But you just kind of go, you set up camp, or you reserve a yurt, and they feed you all weekend. There's beer, coffee. Dan's son owns a brewery in a nearby West Virginia town. So it's pretty good beer and good home cooked food, and that's the idea. And then you just pack up and go home and return to civilization. So you're kind of unplugged. You don't have cell coverage up there. They do have Wi-Fi, but it's pretty slow with everyone on it. But yeah, just a really low key event,
Which I guess in some ways you guys are used to that community in Virginia. I mean, very lucky in that you have the events that you do that have the history that they do, and you have individuals. Not to make this at all about at Horton, but just as I'm, thinking of an RD who tries to keep things pretty consistent over the years, keeping the courses the same, and you get a lot of the same community coming back. You get, I guess, a lot of the same vibe that, I guess you would have 20 years ago, or in certain ways like that. So it sounds awesome in that regard. And for Jordan, for you coming back, I mean, because you got a lot of options too. You're fast, you're strong. You do move to some other races. You're getting faster, right? You had a pretty awesome Hellgate year. Was it 2 years ago? That was your PR year. Still came back and ran pretty strong last December as well. So you for sure probably have a lot of options, but you still stick to kind of your community to a certain extent. And Trilogy for your year 4, what keeps you coming back?
Yeah, I couldn't wait to get back. We had 2 years of it being canceled because of COVID, and I found the race in 2017 after some of my friends from Northern Virginia and Winchester had kind of told me about it, and just fell in love with it. I mean, like you said, it's you're just stuck up on the mountain by yourself without cell phone coverage with just a group of people, and you're just hanging out all weekend. The cool thing is, unlike normal races where you go and you race and you leave, you go to the Trilogy, you race, and you just hang out. You've got no place to be, but right there on the mountain, hanging out, watching people finish. And there's, the whole gamut of people going quickly all the way to hours and hours and hours. And these cutoffs are a lot longer than normal because of just people doing 3 days of racing. So they're pretty generous, and you just hang out and watch everybody finish. And it's like a big family up there. The West Virginia Mountain Trail Runners are just an incredible group, running club that just put on these races. And you just get to know these people so well over like the years, and also just the 3 days of racing. So, sometimes at races you see people and you see them in the distance, and you never really get to know them. Well, you're there at the Trilogy for basically 4 nights. And if you don't know every person there, then there's something wrong with you, because you basically run into every single person and get to talk to them. And so I love the low-key nature of this event. It's just not presumptuous. It's just everyone's there together trying to get through and do it together, which is super fun. And that's what brings me back every single year. Like, yeah, there's other races I could do, but like this is like, it's like my trail family up there, and it's I just love it so much.
And the courses, do they overlap? You run in a different course each day for those who are doing the Trilogy, or all 3?
Yeah, so there's a lot of trails out there, and you start and finish at the same place every day with a similar start every single day. The courses overlap a little bit, but you never run the same trails the same direction. So a couple of miles on the 50K, you'll run the other direction on the 50 mile and things like that, but they do use different trails. And I think Keith alluded to this before, but the trails out there are just wild. They're not well-traversed trails. They're backcountry trails. So a lot of them are old logging roads that have just become overgrown. It's typically used by a lot of hunters and some hikers, but these are not. It's not the Appalachian Trail. It's not Shenandoah National Park. It's pretty wild stuff, and it'll look like you're running down a grass path, but in reality, there's rocks and sticks and holes and just trees down everywhere, which is just a really unique way to run a race. Yeah.
And for coming at it then in such a raw course and laying down pretty hard efforts, Keith, for you, where are you at in your career at this point? Are you going out there running hard, racing? You going out there just kind of enjoying the community and just
No, I mean, in fact, I was supposed to run the 50K Friday, but then we bailed. I had been out of town the week before, and we were going to Pittsburgh right from there. So it's just a lot going on with the family. And no, I got scared actually, because I really didn't know what I was in for. It's a slow course. And, I had a text with Sophie Spidell, who's done it. And she just mentioned, it's heads up. The cutoffs are tight. So that's where I am. I usually don't worry about cutoffs, and I was never near cutoffs, but that thing took me as long as it took those other guys to run 100 miles you just had on. I was over 12 hours on the thing. And I remember getting halfway.
He taught me everything I knew. I know. He taught me everything I know, by the way.
I remember looking at the halfway, and I was like, oh my God, this thing's going to take me 12 hours, because we were like 5:45 to the turnaround. And it was, fortunately, the last bit of it, the 50 is pretty runnable, but it's a lot of hiking. it's kind of where, of course, everything's relative. You know, when you're in shape, you can run some of that stuff, but it's a slog. You know, I don't know what Jordan's time was, but it's certain no one's going to set a PR there, and I think
it's
that's
very technical. It's not the biggest climb. They aren't the biggest climbs in the world, but it's for a lot of the runs, very, very technical West Virginia backcountry trail. So rocks and mud and more rocks and more mud and rocks and mud together. So
and I think that was part of the intrigue. So as I was glancing down because I did have Jordan's times written down, but I was going to answer your question in real time here, Keith, but I'll just, so I think it was part of the intrigue. So I have an article on the Trails Collective site, which is I ranked, I had a number of articles there, most scenic races in Northeast, toughest races in Northeast, and broke it down by category. And I was really trying to do my due diligence of running the metrics in all these races. So not just be like, oh, I've heard of this race. It's going to be, I don't know, like the Spartan race in Vermont. And like, that's supposed to be really hard. Like, I'm just going to, that's the hardest race. Like it always kind of irked me, on maybe certain RDs that would always toss out like, this is the hardest race and whatever. And I'd be like, I don't know, like by what metric? And so I was always just really curious about that stuff. So I really dug in. I ran all the metrics. I ran all of the courses. And Keith, I think maybe reached out to you some here as well, maybe in this time, but so taking the course track logs and running them through 3 different GPSs and finding kind of the mean there. And then I was comparing people. So like Jordan, I would have taken maybe your time at Trilogy, and then I would have compared your time to something else, maybe a 50K Promised Land and a 50K Trilogy, and then try to adjust for like the time difference. And I was like, all right, well, how did Jordan do in this race next to somebody else if I can't find somebody who's crossing over races? So I tried to really dig in. And Trilogy was one of those ones that was an outlier for me. I was like, damn it, like, why? I don't get it. Like, why are the times so slow at Trilogy? Like, were they having like really muddy years? Does the course run long? The course doesn't run long. I've got the metrics right here. The elevation doesn't support it. And I just kept scratching my head until I really started, talking to people and saying, well, why does Trilogy run so long? And it came down to well, it's just a hard course, and it's a wild course. And you're not going to get that in terms of just looking at the elevation metrics. And so I just found it really intriguing.
Yeah. No, it's the trails are just different than most anything that you'll run. They're just not well. The closest thing I can approximate those types of trails to is when I did Bigfoot and some of the Bigfoot 200 and some of the backcountry trails out in the wild country of Washington. We're like, have not seen a person hike it in months and years, and that's kind of what these trails are like out here. Pretty normal for West Virginia, I feel like, but not for, I say, the vast majority of trails. That's the beauty of it. You're out there and it's super remote. You're out there and there's nothing and no one else out there but you, the bears, a few hunting dogs maybe, and the other runners. So
for those of more familiar races, such as even, I don't know, MMT or like the Ring or something that people have history with. So for Keith, knowing, and it could be Jordan as well, but Keith, knowing your history out there, I mean, just really different terrain. Is it not necessarily the same kind of rock kicking? And now it's more like just kind of like mud holes and roots and just like whatever.
Honestly, it reminded me most of Twat or Grindstone, some of that stuff where the climbs aren't as long as like Little Bald at Grindstone or on the Wild Oak Trail. But that's what I was reminded of. It's just this heavy, it's just thick deciduous forest. And this weekend it was almost peak color, which really helped. But it's just, you're just in the woods, like you're in the woods like the whole time. And that just reminded me of like Wild Oak. But yeah, the climb, I don't know what the longest one is, maybe 2,500 feet there. But it's hard to put a finger on it because they didn't feel technical to me, but I was walking everything too. So maybe, it's hard to know, like when you're not really in shape and pushing it, it's just hard to know what to think of things sometimes, but it's a slog either way. And I was doing it on fresh legs too,
And Jordan, you are in shape in pushing things. So for 3 solid efforts out there, I imagine you're still calculating each one in terms of like a sub-maximal effort or whatever. But how is that grind for kind of the stage race format over pretty rugged trails? And with your PT hat on, I mean, what breaks down and what are you doing in terms of damage control?
Yeah, yeah, and that's something from over the years that I've learned. The first time I did it in 2017, I was trashed like the whole weekend. I was just trying to like tape myself back together. I think literally taped myself back together a bunch of times in 2017. And one of my big the focus I've had over the last couple of years is just building resiliency. And I really told myself this year, like, your body is way more resilient than it used to be. Just the things I've been working on. And um, I was telling you, one of the really cool things about this race is you race, you go to bed, you don't know how you're going to wake up and do it the next day. You get up, you shuffle to the start line, and you start, and you just go. And your body can do amazing things when you ask it to. And each day when you wake up and you're sore and you're rolling out of your sleeping bag and it's 25 degrees outside and you're like, there's no way I'm getting through this next race, you get up, you get to the line, and you do it again. And you do it with the same people that you did it with yesterday. And that's the beauty of it, but yeah, it's resiliency and just worked really hard this year on just being strong. And I think as I've gotten faster, I've also gotten a lot stronger. So yeah.
And the keeping yourself fueled, I mean, because you are up there in just a community for the weekend, are you planning a lot for yourself? Because that's a lot of, I think, burn over 3 days and repair and in the moment. Yeah. Or any strategy there or something that you'd recommend for others that are considering the full 3 days?
Yeah. So they feed you super well up there. They feed you breakfast and dinner and lunch. You're running, so you have your own stuff but they feed you really well up there, and they'll give you seconds. So, it's just keep eating the whole time, and bring up whatever food that you need, stash in your tent, bring in your bag. I'm blessed to be married to a sports nutritionist, sports dietitian. So she's trained it into my brain pretty well that I need to fuel well during my races. But having that dialed in, like during your races, is pretty important. And each day that you're running, you kind of have to up it a little bit while you're running. So what you normally would eat for a 50 miler, you kind of need to bump it up a little bit because you just ran a 50K the day before. And like, I could run a half marathon off of no water and no food generally, but on a third day, I brought water with me and a few other, maybe some nutrition as well for an hour and 40 effort.
Yeah. Right on. Well, and so what do you got? What do you guys have each coming up? I mean, I know, Jordan, the Hellgate letters are out. Is that just like each year? I know people just go back to Hellgate year over year or whatever.
Horton actually texted me today because I hadn't turned mine in yet. He was like, where is it? And I told him I'm still looking for a stamp, an envelope, a pen, and a check. All the things I don't have handy these days. So I have to find those things before I can turn it in.
Yeah. And maybe his brain kind of seizes in the moment and thinking that maybe somebody doesn't have a stamp, around, or, a letter. Or that's good. So is that anything else between that, or is that your?
Yeah, I'll just be jumping in. Something else I do every single year is I pace at the Richmond Marathon. I paced a 3-hour group there. So it's kind of John Anderson and I will be pacing the 3-hour group, nice. Which is something fun we do every year together. Just a little speed work. It's fun.
That's solid. I wish I could still just go out and pace a 3-hour marathon effort. So enjoy your mid-30s years, man.
Now enjoy while you can.
Cool. And Keith, what do you got on deck?
Yeah, my feelings are hurt that Horton didn't text me. It's been a while since I've done Hellgate, but yeah, I used to do that. So lately I've been doing Devil Dog, which is a 100-miler in Prince William Forest Park. So I think it's the weekend after. It's next to Hellgate. I can't remember if it's before or after, but I don't think I've ever done that double. So I've been, ever since Devil Dog's been happening, which I think is the 6th year, I've been doing that because I can sleep in my own bed and do it and come home and sleep. So I'll be doing that, and then I'll probably do Stone Mill 50 before that, which is also low key, really nice, cheap, affordable, low key race in Maryland. Also super close, and then I'm doing Hurt again in January.
Go back to Hurt.
Yeah, I'm also in that. Yeah, you're considered a veteran if you have more than 3 finishes. So you kind of it's a lottery, but it's how Hard Rock used to do it, and so now that
7 years to get in.
Yeah, you did it once, right, Jordan?
I did it with
Right?
you in 2019,
Right.
me and you.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really got to kick it in gear because hurt. I almost didn't finish last year because
That's my
that
30-hour. That's my 30-hour 100 right there.
you can't fake that race. That's tough. Again, kind of similar to Trilogy. Like on paper, it doesn't look hard. The climbs, it's just slow. They're both really slow. So it's kind of a neat segue that they're really similar. They're kind of just tedious is the word I would say.
When I was scanning your ultra sign up profile there, Jordan, I did see your hurt time, and I was like, ooh, that must have got ugly.
I broke my ankle at Hellgate 6 weeks before it. And so, yeah, I PT'd myself to the finish line at Hurt in 30 hours. So,
wow. Yeah. All taped up or just?
Yeah, I literally just got out of the boot. I was in a boot I was supposed to be in the boot for 6 weeks. I decided to keep it in about 4.5 and then PT'd myself the rest of the way.
Wow. So, wow. That's a whole new level of hurt.
7 years in the lottery. I wasn't going to pass it up. So.
Well, you definitely earned that finish, man. Nice work.
But
yeah.
Awesome. I would just say, I just want to tell people if they want to do the trilogy to definitely consider doing it. If they're not ready for the 3 days, a lot of people come up and do the 50K and they'll volunteer in the 50 miler and run the half or any iteration of it, or just bring your family, come up and one person do each race each day. It's a family up there, and it's just totally worth the trip up. Come on and do it. It's so fun. So.
And for everything I've heard as well, and messaging back and forth with Adam a bit today, I was also, and I know they lost some momentum in terms of numbers with COVID, but I just assumed they'd be getting a fairly big draw for that race. And so, I find it wild that there's not more people going there. So I would echo from everything that I've seen and heard for it to be on everybody's radars as well for the same thing, either 1 or 3 days. It seems like a really wonderful event.
Yep.
Right on. Well, Jordan, congrats on another win of the full trilogy. Keith, glad you got out there and it was a good experience. And thanks for pushing back on timing here tonight. Thanks for carving out a bit of your time.
Thanks for having us.
Totally. All right. Talk to you both later.
Yep.
All right. We are going to switch gears again. If guests on the back end are still hanging with me there, thanks for pushing back as we chat a little long. I'm going to weave in Tom and Julia and Haley. There you are. Haley. So thanks for your patience, all. It's good to see you.
Hi.
Hello. So Hooper, I'm not setting you back. You shouldn't be tending some bar right now or something like that. I'm not throwing you off. You good?
It's 9 o'clock. It's past my bedtime.
Same.
You do look all cuddled up. Haley, you look pretty cozy on that couch. And Julia, sounds like I had to wake you up there and, weaving in. So, and also for those in the back end, still Wavey and Kat and Nich. Well, you guys are FKTers, so hopefully you're still, you're good. All right, so we are turning our attention to New Hampshire, heading a bit north to Vulcan's Fury. So this is one that I almost considered bringing the family up to do. Tom, Hooper,
every year
it's like, oh yeah, come on up. And the year I almost did a Hooper race, which I do feel bad about. I really
no, you don't.
I do a little bit. I very genuinely want to do your races because you put on very beautiful races and summer stuff, and I do want to get up there. So if you can just, whatever. In any case, so Vulcan's Fury. So give us the general gist, Tom, of what Vulcan Fury is all about and kind of just the overview of the course.
Yeah,
and what's that crazy noise going on? Who's got some sort of?
I don't know. It's probably me. I'm sorry. I'll mute.
That was it. It was Haley. All right, Tom, give us the rundown of Vulcan's Fury.
Yeah, so there's a 13-miler, 5-miler, Pawtuckaway State Park. It's got some super technical stuff. It's got the Devil's Den, Devil's Staircase. Lots of roots, a lot of leaf litter. It's a classic New England trail race, fall trail race.
And it looks at some of the photos look good, and that signature kind of little undercliff section looks pretty sweet in terms of the scramble.
Yeah, the boulder field there is crazy. If just even not in the race, just go there and check it out. It's just all of a sudden there's just big, huge boulders left in the middle of the woods, back from when the glaciers went through. It's pretty neat.
And for those, there you go, hanging in there. That's good. Some props there.
My whole
comment.
Yeah, sorry.
No, not at all. So it looks pretty sweet. So for those who follow the Trails Collective, I shouldn't have to introduce Tom. Thanks for often joining us for the event. So I can't be there. I'm going to at least have you on here to represent. So I appreciate you taking some time and having good events to report on. And so with us also, Haley. Haley's coming to us from, I believe, from Newbury, New Hampshire. Is that right, Haley? Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. She's a New England beast, finishing at or near the podium of most events she enters, and including a solid 2022, which saw her run Dixon's Revenge, Musalamu, Ragged 50K, and now Vulcan's Fury. Did you get married this year too? Or is that last year?
That was this year, week after Ragged. So this is my easy year. This is my, if I feel like doing a race, I'm going to do it. That was the deal I made.
So that's a pretty solid year, weaving those in, weaving the wedding in.
Yeah.
And as I was doing the Facebook stalk in prep to see some pretty good bridal veil photos for you and he, maybe like, I don't know, like the day after or something like that. Yeah. Well done.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I wore that thing twice just because it was so cute.
Nice. Well, maybe just gonna have to start, keep wearing it then. You're just gonna
I don't hate that idea. I still have it.
You maybe should. You should maybe be that weird girl like that just keeps showing up like wearing her bridal veil. It's really creepy, but I mean she's really fast, so we're not gonna say anything. So Haley laid down a 158 for the Vulcans win and establishing a new course record. And relatively hot on the heels in trail speak is Julia Baker Huffman. Now that we know Coach Julia Huffman, coming to us from Manchester. Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also spent some time throwing down on the New England trail scene over the years, frequenting Pineland Farms, Bearbrook, two somewhat classics. Pineland Farms, that just shifted, right? A year or two ago.
They do gun stock. They switched it to gun stock now.
Yeah. Did you rock them with? Did you ride out the move with gun stock, or you're like, no, dude, I'm Pineland, and that's it?
I did gun stock. I think it was like 25K. I think it was June. It's not the same, but it's still a good race, I
was going to ask that if it was the same vibe. Were they able to maintain it with just the new area?
A similar vibe, but I don't know if it's because it's a 2-day event and I ran on Sunday and Saturday they had more going on. It didn't feel like a lot of people. I felt kind of like alone. But those race directors do a great job and I love that area. So I still had a good time, but it is a little bit of a different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Central High's favorite coach and mom.
Okay.
I know. Abigail, you rock, Abigail. Thanks for weighing in here because we need a little bit of this.
A lot of my high school athletes had for us. I know. I coach high school, so I told them, "Oh, coach is gonna," and so a lot of my kids are on here.
Dude, kids, you should be asleep right now. Never mind, you're all young, and this is not quite the same. I should just send the link to everybody who's on here. I should just make it generally public here, the link to StreamYard, and just have your parents or coaches hop on here and just tell me some Coach Huffman stories. So what do you coach? Is it cross country for high school?
Yeah, I coach middle school and high school cross country. So
right on.
Yeah.
And you've got clearly you're leaving an impact on some families if they're up with you at 9:08 here and, weighing in. So nice work.
Thank you.
Yes. So how to go out there for the both of you? That's fairly close in terms of 2 minutes. Are you guys training partners with Haley and Julia? Did you spend some time out there, or were you throwing down back and forth at all?
We were, because this girl just booked it right out of the gate. And I'm like, wow, I know this course, it's been a while. I still made a wrong turn with her. Sorry. Not my fault though. And I just want to say it was the guy ahead of us, right? I did not get us lost. Please say this in front of Hooper. It wasn't me.
I made a wrong turn before I saw you, so
it was marked fine, Hooper. It was marked fine.
It was.
For the record, Haley's gotten lost at every race ever.
Same. I got lost, but yeah, I mean, I got lost at Loon Mountain, kind of. The arrow, yeah, I know. So it happens.
Something about going up Upper Walking Boss, and you just kind of take a detour and kind of head off the side of the slope the other way.
I just kept going up, and everybody's like, "You're supposed to turn." I mean, I was literally like a downhill, and I decided to keep going up. And
you just call him a pansy and be like, "Yeah, you can turn." But I'm
like, "This is an uphill
now.
race. Why do we keep going down? Let's keep going up. Like, I don't want to go down."
Yeah, you need to make it harder.
Yeah.
So what's this say then, Julia, about you being a solid modified high school coach, that now we've established that you go out hot right off the line and you just don't follow kind of course markings. So I don't know if your kids or runners are paying attention here. But you kind of need to listen to what she says and not what she does.
I really don't go out hot. I don't. That's like opposite of oh boy. It's opposite of what I usually do. But I don't race very often anymore. And so when I went into this race, I told myself, this is what I love. I love single track. I love going up. I don't like going down. So that is what this race taught me even more. I'll work on that. But I just decided I'm just going to go hard. And if it feels good and I feel happy going hard, I'll go hard. And if I don't feel happy and I need to back off, I'm going to be happy and back off. And so I just wanted to go in confident and tried to kind of maintain that throughout. I don't typically like to go harder. I like to be harder at the end, finish strong. So, but.
Well, she fooled me because I was like, okay, I'm going to dial it back for a bit. She can.
That was smart, though. That was smart.
Well, I was like, it's pretty runnable. This is fast. This is kind of out of my element because I love it because it's so pretty and it's just a good time. But like, this is a fast course. I think. I know it's technical. I like strictly train on technical though, so it's not really for me because I love that stuff. But there are some sections that you fly, and honestly, if she wasn't there, I don't know if I would have gone this fast because I was like, wow, she is just flying over the dirt roads. And like in the beginning too, I did notice, I'm not going to lie, I was like, oh, I think I got her on the downhill.
Yeah, you did.
So when the second, after we sort of got a little turned around at the top of the second ascent, I was like, okay, this is the only chance you have, Haley. So do you want to compete or what? And I'm like, all right, damn it. So then I was like, okay, I got to get it. And I flew down that, but no, she was pushing me, especially on the road. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so long. You guys are flying. I was with a group and they just, half of them were just chatting. I'm like, geez, this part stinks. I love everything else about that race, but not the dirt road.
Yeah, it was a long dirt road.
I love the amount of support that you got coming in terms of people. That is outstanding.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's all right. Keep telling the stories here. I'll keep plugging them. And so for Hooper, I guess that's a beautiful thing about your races are you've got so much ridiculously technical terrain in New Hampshire, but you do a pretty good job putting together these courses that have some technicality, but are also, I don't know, runnable in some ways as well, and having a variety.
Yeah, I mean, this one it has, in the back and the front are really runnable, and in the middle there's some pretty big climbs. It's super technical up towards the tower. But other than that, I mean, yeah, you can absolutely fly.
So in terms of absolutely flying, no one has more resilience than Julia here from Abigail. Keeps it rolling. So, but now I'm starting to question in terms of Abigail because she finished second by like 2 minutes. So I'm going to have to say that
first loser.
she got the assist on the day. So I'm going to have to give it to, Haley, on that one.
If you're not first, you're last.
Not first, you're last.
I've done it before. I had advantage there, to be fair.
Oh, wow.
I made a wrong turn, but
But still.
It's the name of the game.
So I don't know, maybe then going in next year, Tom, on the Vulcan Fury shirts next year, you can put in if you're not first, you're last. Is just like on the on the back of the shirt there.
Yep.
That would be good. And maybe you could just put a picture of then Haley's face on it right there. And that'll give something Julie to kind of
Use
key
one
off.
of my animals, not my face, please.
Well, cool. It looked like it was a beautiful day. What do you guys got coming up? Julie, you're in mid cross country season here, so that's kind of your focus at the moment. You got another 3 weeks or so of high school season.
Yeah. My middle school season ends at the end of next week, and high school goes like into the beginning of November.
Right on. And how's the team doing? Any studs?
They're all studs.
Good answer. Good answer. Good. Half of them are tuning in, right now. Well played.
They're the best.
And Haley, what you got on deck? I mean, so if you continue in kind of light year and just what you're up for, or you just like, I don't know, I'm married now. I'm taking the easy road here. I'm just going to chill on this couch, all comfortable.
Oh, no way. No. He's right here, so I can't say too much.
You might as well just climb in the footage now at this point then. And, yeah.
Listen, I might
have. That's the guy who runs for beer. I couldn't read the rest of your I think tank top in one of your photos as I was Facebook stalking.
Yeah, I like to pet dogs and drink beer. Yeah, I mean he comes to the races because, well, Hooper especially, he supplies. He does a good job with that. But he likes to come to the races and wants me to do well because if I do win beer, it goes to him. So we make it work. But I might have one maybe race planned, but I don't want to say anything yet. But then I'm done. I got to get my gallbladder out, and I am chilling. I swear, that's it. Maybe
well, it's already out there. You might as well just tell us what race you're gonna do.
I don't know if I'm gonna do it because I need to chill out a little bit. I don't want to put it out there. It's bad luck.
It's kind of already out there. They know that you're gonna do a race, and it's before your gallbladder.
I don't know, but I really don't know because I haven't said anything. You guys are putting me on the spot.
You just did say something. It was that I missed the name. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm eyeing the Mount Tom trail race, which it's pretty fun. Amy Rozaki puts it on, and it's always a good time there. I did that once. It was just really fun. I think it was one of the first years, but I could be making that up. I don't know if I'm going to do it though. I need to dial it back, and I'm not good at that. So then just maybe some traverses. But I think I'm good for the year. Maybe snowshoe, maybe.
Cool. And then and Tom, you got to be stoked that this was the last one for 603 for the year, right?
No, we still have the Great Pumpkin Trail Relay.
Oh, that's right. Because you're gonna be back on, and that's right on that one.
Yep. So that one's always a good end of season party.
There's a chance
relay.
I'll be at that too. Sorry.
So now the truth's coming out. You got Mount Tom on deck, and you got the Great Pumpkin Relay.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's just a good one just to end the season. Run with your running buddy and kind of call it a season.
Do you think that maybe Haley, unless it's that big brawny guy to your left, I mean, you could run with Julia there as running with your buddy. I mean, Julia may take it out a little bit hot.
I don't take it out hot. I really do.
We've already established that you take it out hot.
I don't take it out hot.
Maybe she was just more awake than me, but I was I felt like they just took off, and I'm like, oh man, all right, guess I'm gonna go out a little bit harder. And I did for a second, then I'm like, no. But yeah, Julia, I mean, I guess we could,
I'm eyeing that, but I don't know. I sign up for races the night before. I'm very non-committal.
Yeah, I get it.
I do what I want when I want. What can I say?
I'm hoping that you can patch me through when you're in the huddle before the cross-country race, whatever you've got coming up maybe this weekend. And I just want to be like, look, I've taken some notes here. Here's what Julia recommends for the race ahead. I want you to take it out hot. And then I want you to just, whatever you feel in the moment, if you're just happy, just keep going. But if you're you know what, I just want to dial back, then just go ahead and just dial back and just kind of coast it in.
Yeah. If you're smiling though, you can go harder. You can't be too happy. You know, I don't know.
Right on. Well, nice work on the 1-2, Tom. Nice work on putting on another what sounds like a nice event. And thanks for all of your flexibility for you guys and pushing back and giving us some of your time tonight.
Yeah, I want to say if Tom is the organizer, I just wanted to say thank you, because like it was a great race and I've wanted to do it for a long time, and I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. And so thank you, because it really is beautiful and challenging, everything I could have wanted.
Cool.
So.
Awesome.
And thank you to Haley for pushing me as well.
Pushing you from behind.
And same to you, and thank you for Matt for the burgers. He did a good job with those, especially with the little mini grill. So I just want to put that out there.
Dude, what are those crazy noises coming here?
Honestly, they really need to give me a new work laptop. It's possessed, and I'm sorry.
It seemed to jive with like doing the hamburgers or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Certain things I say, it just gets mad. Sorry.
That's funny. Right on. Well, again, thanks for taking your time again tonight, and it would be fun to check in with you again after one of the next rounds. And good luck with the rest of your season, Julia. And for all of those who tuned in, particularly on Julia's end and chiming in there, thanks for being live and rolling with it as well.
Go Central.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
And Ellie coming in from Chicago. Dude, you've missed a ton of good stuff so far, but I appreciate you tuning in from Chicago. So we are going to roll into our last segment here of the evening. We are going to switch gears into FKT scene. Kat, thanks for all your work so far. Nich, I will bring you in here, and Wavey, thanks for going the distance here as well. I can see you, Wavey, but I can't. There you are. There we go. Cool.
What's going on?
Thanks for your flex, everybody. I'm going to Kat, I know you said maybe I could lead it, but man, you did all this homework on just skimming the FKT boards. I'll be like, I could just read what you wrote, but like you did all the homework here.
It's just been my life for many years.
Yeah.
Well, we're here for the New York Appalachian Trail section FKT, which for as long as I known about it, which is about a couple of years. But if you go back to about 2017 on the pro boards, it was people who were looking to go under 24 hours. I know about a handful of people who have made the attempt and never quite gotten to the full distance before. Last year, I set a time of 26 hours and 40 minutes, which was a soft time, but a strong effort on my part. And then this year, so I guess it was a really nice weekend to go out for a run on Friday. Apparently someone went out southbound unsupported, finishes under 24 hours. 9 hours later, unknown to anybody, Mr. Wavey here sets off on the New Jersey border on that same rock that Nich finished, goes north, finishes in just a little over 22 hours. So I think it's pretty amazing that two people on one weekend went under 24 hours after this little segment's been standing around for quite a long time. New York is the New York Trails, not so easy, and it's been a bit of a, I don't know, we call it a white horse or a elusive segment. So that's my.
And so that was totally unbeknownst to both of you, Nich. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, Nich posted on Wavey's Strava segment. I'm like, who else would have? And he's like, I did. So it was really cool to see it happen, simultaneously in two different styles, going different directions, both under 24, both really hard efforts, and they both crushed it. So, and they both get to be record holders. So.
And so for both of you building up, and since Kat, you've done it before, I mean, now that it's got a couple times or a few times on there and becomes a more competitive as opposed to just being this outlier that somebody does in their backyard that nobody else ever touches. Now you've got a northbound, now you've got a southbound. So in hindsight for Wavey and Nich and Kat, have you done it as well? I mean, do you think there's a sweet spot instead of, is it measuring, I guess, who you are as a runner? Or is it what's your southbound, northbound for the next person that goes after?
I mean, I guess did the guys want to talk about why they chose their directions, or? I mean, typically the southern section's considered harder. The northern section's a little bit easier, but you know, it's a long route, so I'll let the guys take it.
Yeah. So I went southbound, so like from Connecticut border to Jersey border, mainly just logistically because I wanted to be close to home when I finished. So it was like a 20-minute drive back to my apartment from the Jersey border, and I was like, I don't want to wait an extra hour in the car. And so that meant running uphill, grabbed a few extra 1,000 feet along the way, and then I don't know if you want the easy part first or last, because like it's nice to get it on fresh legs, but at the same time, like as you get more tired, maybe you want that at the end. I don't know.
I definitely melted down on that last part.
Yeah, I did too. So
that last 6 miles, especially after Dover tree, it got a little ugly there. Yeah. Even though it was very runnable, I was very disappointed.
Yeah, it's a little heartbreaking to like have to hike it out.
Yeah,
like this is such a smooth trail, but you're shot.
Yep.
So
yeah.
So that seems a tough way to go. I mean, I could see how it would break you down early, but yeah, I mean, once your body's all ravaged, I don't know if I'd want to be going into the technicality. It being a point-to-point format, what are the relative metrics? In each way, what's the gain and relative loss?
It's it's 87 miles, and you had how many feet?
I had 22,000 of up and about 19 something of down.
19. I think the way I went, 19 of elevation gain. I don't know what the down was, maybe 18, something around there. Or not. It might have been actually, no, I think it's more. I think it might be more loss.
Yeah, it would have been more downhill that direction.
Well, it have to be 22 down.
Yeah, makes sense actually.
Yeah.
So it seems like that would be a favorable thing there. I know once you get into once your legs are carnaged, in some ways late in a race, I'd rather be ascending rather than going through technical crap where I start kicking rocks and just kind of, cursing at the world or whatever. So I guess there's somewhat knowing yourself there.
The last miles of going southbound, there's not a lot of elevation, but they're not easy. They're like a lot of bouldery, rocky drops, and it's the first time I ran that section on a trail recon, I was like, what the fuck is this? you think you're going to get kind of like a nice runnable section, and you don't. So they have their heartbreaks both ways.
Towards the end, there's a lot of sections where they're blue blazes, like they're like the easy way detours, and I was like, I don't think I can take that. Like that feels wrong. So I took the boulders to be safe.
And what do you guys, in terms of building up, in terms of the FKTs really grew in popularity during the COVID window where a lot of events were out. Has this been something you guys have long been into, or have you done some others, or is this a big kind of first one for you, or kind of what's the history and what's the motivation on the FKT front?
Can you go first?
For me, I've done one short one. It was like a 5-point-something mile one. I never did a long one like this before. I did an unsupported race to SRT. I don't know if you've heard of that one. But yeah, as far as FKTs, I've only done that one short one. And this is definitely something new for me.
Cool.
This is my first established route that I've done. Back in 2020 when all the races were canceled, I was living in New York City, so I just took a train up to Harriman and then ran back the 80 miles, through the AT to the long path. So that's a fun not race style thing that like kind of falls in the same bucket. So I've been doing, similarly dumb things, but this is the first time that it's something someone else cares about.
And this was both unsupported for you guys. So
Mine
It was supported. I didn't support it.
Oh, you just supported. Okay.
I was supported. Yep.
Oh, Nick, you were unsupported.
Yeah.
Ah, so technically you both get the win kind of on the day. On the
I wanted to be the first under 24, and then I saw that. I saw it on my Strava as soon as I went to upload. I was like, no way. No way. So, it's funny, though. It is funny. So.
Yeah.
That's right, because Kat, you were out there as part of the crew, right? Were you crewing?
I was
were you out there, or you just
Yeah. Well, you could say that I kind of poked Wavy into doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good Yeah. And so is it for that segment? I mean, is it pretty decent capacity to support through there? I mean, I guess you get some long stretches, but otherwise you get a lot of roads.
You're really never alone for more than 8 miles without a road crossing. So it's really easy to run it as a support crew. You have, your car just kind of follows you along as you go in a zigzagging manner on the roads while you run straight through. I have a chart if anyone wants to partake in this route that I would happily share with all the road crossings. But yeah, I mean, you can like run it race style. You could just go and like have your people hand you off things. Unsupported is it's hard. There's not a lot of water. There's water crossings, but if this has been a really dry year, if he tried to go out in August, you would have I don't know where you would have gotten water from. So, they're mad props. Like it's.
I think the tropical storm earlier this week certainly helped.
And did you do a lot of scouting there, Nick? I mean, were you prepped for that? And you were like, all right, the water should be flowing now, and like I'm good. It was just like a filter.
So like I hadn't seen the first 50 miles, like anything north of Bear Mountain Bridge, I didn't know. And then the same with like the last 10, I didn't know. So I live at the southern tip of Harriman State Park, so I've seen everything in there a lot. But I decided to do this about like 10 days beforehand. So I was like, oh, wow. It rained a bunch. I'm going to go. This weekend seems good.
Yeah.
So my pack was like just over 10 pounds at the start between food and like all the extra layers I brought because it got so cold.
So what'd you pack in terms of the calories then being unsupported? What was your go-to, your mainstay?
Yeah, so I did like 2,500 calories of like normal sports nutrition, so like chews and goo and stuff. Then the other 2,500 was like Lara bars, paydays, gummy worms, just the usual. Then I had 2 filter flasks, like the Catadine style 500 milliliter flasks.
And were the paydays and the gummy worms pretty crux in those moments where you're just like, what am I doing? Like this is hard. This kind of sucks, and I'm going to eat this payday.
Really, I'll tell you what it was I had like 3 hours from like 3:30 a.m. until 6:30 a.m. where it was like it was probably close to freezing because there was frost on the ground, and I was so cold because I was so dehydrated, so I was having trouble moving quickly to stay warm. And the thing that brought me back was a cold brew flavored gel. I like took that and like a swig of the gross pond water I had, and I was like, all right, thumbs up, like let's do it. So that was the last the last few hours were actually pretty good, and I had like a 9-something minute mile in there, and came back a little bit for the last 80 plus miles. But yeah, we had some dark times.
The last 80 plus miles. You're already starting in that. And I guess this was one thing that Kat mentioned in the notes in terms of the decision to start at night. I mean, that's a really weird time. And that time between the 3:30 and like the sunrise, your body and mind is just weird and tweaked. So if you're kind of starting that deficit, I guess as long as you can get to sunrise, things perk back up. But maybe there's a sellable point for you. Here's your new sports nutrition product is Nick's Pond Water Chaser. And that's just going to be like, what you just start selling. That's the new product. And then Wavy, what was your what's your go-to when things were kind of getting ugly out there? What's your crew? This is what got you through.
Are you talking food wise, or what are we talking here?
Well, I guess it could be some sort of. It could be I guess a nice. I don't know. It could be if it wasn't. I was talking food wise, and now I was trying to think of something humorous there in terms of maybe it wasn't food. Maybe you got a certain
I had good support. I mean, people showed up and everything and cheered me on. I got where was it? Miller Hill, the overpass. I think that was like mile 60 something, and I was definitely starting to hurt a little bit by that point. And I came out, and there was a bunch of people from the 2 running clubs I go to, the one with Kat, Hubbard, and then Peekskill Brewery. And there was just a bunch of people that showed up, and they were clapping, and they got me. I definitely couldn't drop, not with a clean conscience,
Mm-hmm.
I got my trekking poles at that point, and I still had some running. I still had some running in me at that point. I definitely did some. By the time I got to the last moving. Yeah, by the time I got to the last 6 miles, that's when basically all running was done. My foot was just blowing up horribly. It was just I was dragging it along the trail at that point, pretty much. But I think my fastest mile was like mile 80 or 81, actually, the whole thing. But yeah, after that, I don't know what happened, but definitely went downhill. But
well, that's nice, and I guess
I had good support. People that showed up in the night with headlamps on when I was in the trails to pace me, because I didn't really have a pacer through the night. Not much pacing through the night. So
that's awesome.
It was nice. Yeah,
and that also speaks, I guess, the difference then with the unsupported efforts, where Nich, if kind of the wheels fall off, and start kind of falling on hard times out there. I mean, it's just you and you out there to kind of pull you through or out.
Yeah, I've considered this. I was like, well, if I stop, like, still gonna have to wait for my wife to wake up. So
yeah, and I don't want to wake her up. It's like this crazy hour, and then she's gonna have to drive up here and get me. And crap, I might as well just keep going for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on. So other talking points there, Kat, that would be fun to touch on this effort?
I don't know, I guess a little bit about their background is kind of an interesting dichotomy too. They their running background's kind of diverse. From it's Nich, you've done a fair amount of races, pretty successfully. You were second at the VT 100, which is pretty impressive. Yeah.
I ran Mohican for that, and I ran Mogian Monster 100.
Oh, nice.
So those are the hundreds I've done so far.
Cool. Good variety there with those 3. I mean, Vermont being very runnable and is what it is, and then Mogollon being what it is, and a good varied set of 100-milers there. So definitely some applicable experience. And then Wavy, you're coming in with not that experience.
No, I've never done 100. Still haven't done 100 yet.
You might as well have just added on some miles down into or up into Massachusetts or whatever at that point, and just or Connecticut, wherever the hell you were. And,
I kind of just let everything go. I don't think I had it in me. It would have been maybe a literal crawl at that point, not just a figurative one. That's about how it felt. But
yeah.
Hopefully soon.
Yep. So cool. It was, and to your point, Kat, it is cool to see the varied backgrounds there and to have you guys come in an hour or so, one another. Yes, supported, one's unsupported, and how that shakes out. But
it's one of the really cool things about FKTs, I think. You can you get people from a lot of different varieties going after something and chasing a similar goal, and you never know who's out there, who's doing what until it gets listed. You don't know what your competition is, and you always have to be out there competing with yourself to be the best time. It's a cool thing.
It's crazy that we would have crossed each other's path if he.
One day.
Might not even known what was happening.
Yeah. So, and I was thinking that the same thing earlier, but I couldn't figure out in my LA, to your point here, my bonking brain at the moment. So did you guys cross, or were you you didn't overlap in terms of?
You didn't.
No,
just missed.
I started about 10 a.m. on Saturday and finished about 9:30ish on Sunday, and he started about 5 p.m. on Sunday. So as I was recovering, I got home, took a shower. I look at Instagram, and fastest known time posts something. I'm like, wait, what? Who's this guy?
So he still would have had some fresh footprints in the mud out there.
Maybe,
Yeah.
Starting
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I guess I was curious about that, how you found out about it, because you posted on Wavey's Strava, so it was through the FKT site.
Yeah,
or
they reposted
Instagram?
one of his Pacers
Yeah.
stories or something like that.
Yep,
Yeah, cool.
And did you already have a target there, Nick, in your mind? And then you're like, oh, well, here's this time now. Or
Well, so I went first.
You first, or the vice versa there.
So I had roughly 24 hours in mind. I thought that would be doable.
Yeah, that was also my goal.
Wavey was going for 22. I think that was his A goal, and he pretty much hit that, which is pretty awesome. We were getting texts through the night, like with him going through aid stations, and I'm like, dude's flying. So it was really awesome to watch from the spectator point. So.
And was there one point then, I guess, because Wavey, your last 6 miles, if the wheels kind of fell off there and the time fell off, were you still comparing one another, even slightly different styles and in the baseline that was already set there? And you're like, here's where he was at a certain time, or you couldn't really because one's north-south?
I had no idea yet.
We didn't know. We didn't.
Yeah. Oh, that was just it. Oh, got it.
I got home like, yes, I'm the first one on the 24. And then I checked Strava, and I'm just like, no way! Like, it was just such a crazy coincidence.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Good weekend for it.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great weather.
So Nick, that's a then with Vermont 100 followed by this. I mean, that's a pretty outstanding double at the moment. Anything else you got planned for this year, or you get to just kind of relax a bit?
I'm on the fence about the Wild Oak Trail in February. And then the next thing for sure would be World's End 100K in June or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Would that be your first World's End, or have you done World's End yet?
I haven't done it yet. I've paced the last 30 or so. So
cool. And the Winter Twat, with the intention of just seeing how far you can go?
I mean, I would like to run fast. I don't know. I don't know what fast is there exactly. I haven't done a loop, but John Kelly's ran close to 24. So technically my Hellgate time is faster than his.
There it is.
Kidding. Maybe 26 or something.
Cool. Well, I think cool. I mean, those who, know Twat and in February, and, some years maybe miles, some years maybe pretty hellacious. But clearly you know what you're getting yourself into. So it'll be exciting. Well, for me, I think it'll be fun to see how that goes for you out there. Wavey, how about for you? Anything on deck still for this year?
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be this year, but I'm thinking about doing Breakneck again next year. Definitely would like to improve my time. I wasn't very well trained last year. Came in a little over 6 hours, I think. Definitely like to hit around 5:30 or something in that race. That'd be nice.
Well, with this new bar that's set for you, you might as well run from home to the Breakneck course and then just kind of do Breakneck and then just kind of run home from there.
It's a nice warm up.
Yeah. It's not very far from me.
Right on. Well, guys, and then Kat being out there and supporting it, and since you've been over that as well, great job to all of you. Pretty awesome.
Awesome job, guys. Awesome.
Thanks.
And thanks for carving up some of your time here tonight and pushing back. I know it's getting kind of late. So thank you. And then Kat, before we close out, do you want to just plug a couple of the other FKTs that kind of went down in the region that you had, or just kind of a quick mention or run through?
Sure. So the not posted on the FKT site, but spotted on Strava, Joshua Reed took down the Devil's Path unsupported FKT by almost 10 minutes from Stephen Lang's unsupported time. So that's pretty stellar. There was sounds like a soft time from Ryan Atkins. I don't know how soft that really is coming out of Ryan Atkins.
Ryan Atkins, yeah.
on the Pinkham Notch Mount Washington ascent. He did that in a time of 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 38 seconds. Let's see, other things around. Debbie Livingston and her husband Scott set the fastest time on Mount Tom for the mixed gender, but guessing she was probably chasing the unsupported female time that was set a week before by Brenda Fortin. That was 13 seconds faster, and I did a really bad job about writing times down, so I'm sorry. I'm not spewing out the stats here. Yep. The Central Park Loop Challenge, which is run the Central Park Loop as many times as you can within 24 hours, was set the unsupported female time by Viv Huang with 42.8 miles. As a comparison, there's some supported times there. There's a 10 loops for the female and 19 for the male. Chris Chapman created a new course and set an opening mark on the Palisades Giant stairs. It's a 4.6 mile loop. He did in 59 minutes and 58 seconds and it's got about 1,000 feet of gain. He also notes it as being a bit of a soft time just for an opening mark, trying to get people down kind of a bit further down the Palisades. There's not a lot there, I think, as far as the New York region. In that New York City section. There was a 47.3 mile with 10,000 feet loop trail of the Monadnock Sunapee Greenway Trail set by Peter Bonito of 8 hours, 45 minutes, 55 seconds. That's the unsupported and fastest overall. It looks like a pretty sweet trail based on some of the photos I've seen of it. Don't know it personally. And the Muhansik Ridge Trail by Mead Binhammer with 1 hour, 55 minutes, 8 seconds, which is a 14.3 mile, 2,572 feet. It's described as pretty runnable. There's some nice names on that list, so that looks like a pretty good time. And that's what I got.
Right on. Well, it's cool to see that. I think there hasn't been quite as much activity, particularly in the Northeast on the FKT boards, at least that I've seen. I don't see all the
with the
so it's good to see that kind of picking back up again.
Yeah, I think with races picking up. Yeah.
Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, but there's some great trails. There's some great trails out here. So.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, I will let you guys go here for the evening, and Kat, maybe we can circle back on more of the FKT front. Wavey and Nich, great job on this work. Wavey, hopefully I'll see you at Breakneck. Nich, it'd be fun to see how Winter Twat shakes out for you. And it'll be, look forward to chat with you guys in the future. So thanks again for being on here. And Kat, again, thanks for reaching out, and to Mike for reaching out as well, and for plugging this.
Yeah, awesome. It was a really awesome effort by both of them. It's really, really great job. So.
Right on. All right. I will talk to you guys next round.
Bye. See ya.
All right. Yeah. All right. And closing out, thank you so much for those who tuned in with us live. Ellie, thanks for picking us up in Chicago in your route west. Hopefully the first day's drive was uneventful in a good way. And for next week, we'll get a plug from Christina Fulchik on a research study she's doing on running and mental health. The Trap Lodge Mountain Marathon, Oil Creek in Biggs Backyard is going down. I forget, I think it's either Green Monster, maybe something to that effect, I think is also about to run. Some that I am missing, some that ran this past weekend that I couldn't cover, but a pretty active time of year. We'll also go deep in digging in next week with a few central individuals in the Florida trail community, and some solid efforts and hopefully fun stories there. So until then, again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your support the Trails Collective in any way, shape, or form. And I will check you around this time next week. Have a great weekend in between. All right. See ya.